Hey, everybody. Welcome to the customer and the service. I'm John Lemesney. Sean,
Sean Petrowski.
how are you doing, Sean?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. So, tonight we're going to talk about completely different topics, which is odd. Usually we stay within a vein and talk about things that we have talked about before in hopefully new and interesting ways. I always find it new and interesting. But I really enjoy talking to Sean. If you wouldn't enjoy talking to me or Sean, I don't imagine that you would want to watch our show very much. But so tonight's topics are customer service in small government and customer service in movie theaters, right?
That's correct.
So I have a little story. So today, not really knowing what I was going to be doing this evening, uh, I spent some time on Facebook and a post came across about the kiosks on Nassau Street. You know what I'm talking about? The advertising kiosks?
I do, but why don't you explain them for people who maybe have never been to Princeton or are not familiar with what those things are even called?
Sure. So Princeton is a college town, and it is an old college town. And at some point, a lot of colleges uh, enabled, maybe empowered, their communities to advertise by having open bulletin boards around everywhere in various places in the area. And it's a very common practice if you have an event that's coming up to go to one of these bulletin boards. Uh, and the bulletin boards I'm talking about are six-sided bulletin boards, but there are ones all over the place, all over campus, where they are littered with papers and post-its and pictures and little things. And there are a lot of people who have a certain amount of love for these bulletin boards because they're not orderly and they are not especially democratic. I mean, in a lot of ways, I guess they are democratic. I mean, but it's not movement by many. It's movement by one, and then movement by another one, and then movement by another one. So the way it works is, if you want to advertise something, you walk up to this bulletin board, you post your bill or your flyer on the bulletin board, and you go and do it basically in 20 other places around campus. And the result is kind of a mess. I mean, some would argue a beautiful mess, but it's a mess. And if you have something that is on a white sheet of paper, just black text on a white sheet of paper, chances are people are never going to see it because there's nothing to make it stand out from the cacophony that's going on this bulletin board. And like I said, there are at least 20, probably closer to 60 or 100 of these things around campus. There are a couple, though, that are, I need to put in headphones, I guess. There are a couple, though, that really stand out for people who are walking up and down Nassau because they're at one end and another end of the main part of Nassau that is across from the campus. So it's basically like right by PJ's and right by the bank on the corner of Witherspoon and Nassau, right?
Right.
So as a result, uh, these ones. Can you still hear me? You can't hear me?
No.
Can you hear me now?
No. Oh, wait. Your microphone it's the microphone. It's using the microphone on your headphones, not on the computer.
Yeah, that's what I wanted it to do.
Okay, now I hear you.
Okay,
Perfect.
good. So anyway, uh, these kiosks that are in front of PJ's and the bank are just littered with these flyers. And they're not especially useful. I mean, there's a certain cultural significance to them, but they're not especially useful as advertising kiosks. So the Chamber of Commerce decided to bring this up in front of the council today so that they can get approval to renovate these kiosks. And I got really excited when I saw the post because I thought this is a chance to really improve this in a real way. And I thought about my experience at Rider University, in which I managed the Access TV digital signage system. And I am by no means advocating for Access TV. But I am advocating for digital signage. And let me tell you some of the advantages that one has over the other. I'll start with the pros and cons of the paper, the way it is now. You don't have to have any approval. You can be anybody and walk up and add your post to the post. That's both a pro and a con, because you don't necessarily want somebody to put up some sort of hate speech or something. So you want to have some approval process. Digital signage always has an approval process. In the paper version, one pro is the ease of it. You know, you literally can go up and do it yourself. You don't have to go through anybody. There's nobody in your way. But there would be an advantage to having somebody make choices about what's going to be going up there. And digital signage provides that too. I mean, I won't even get into the argument about paper versus digital just in general. You know, the fact there was an argument in the council meeting about whether or not somebody would be able to see what the message was if they were driving by in their car. And with digital signage, because there would be one message at a time and it would fill up this really large sort of 20 by 30 poster space, people would be able to read that. Plus, there would probably be a designer in that workflow, like I was at Rider, that would have some aesthetic choices that they would make about how to present the who, what, when, where, why of the presentation. It is more cost effective, and the other beautiful thing is you put in your one idea, your one post into a digital workflow online. Somebody approves it, designs it, and posts it simultaneously to 20 different locations, or 40 different locations, or 60 different locations. Whereas now, if I, as an advertiser, want to advertise in 60 different locations, I better have sneakers, because I have to go around to 60 different locations. So I could go on. I think there is no benefit to a paper-based solution that outweighs the benefits of a digital solution. You know, if somebody wants to make an argument about the cost of running LEDs for 24 hours, I'll say, you know, they can run it for 12 hours a day and turn it off for half of that time or whatever. The thing that surprised me about the hearing about this, it was called a work session, was that digital signage was not even considered. It wasn't brought up as an idea. It wasn't shown to be a bad thing and dismissed as an idea. Nobody brought up the cost of it. It's as though it didn't exist, which is bizarre because if you ride on Route 1 now, half of the billboards that were on Route 1, most of them, have been replaced with digital signage. And so you see the immediate benefit to advertisers. You see the immediate benefit to drivers. It's much clearer. You can see the message if you care to see the message. and um, there's no men that have to go out to all those billboards and update them. They get updated remotely. If there's a typo, they change it instead of having to, go out and take down a $1,000 campaign and put up another $1,000 campaign because somebody put a comma in the wrong place. Anyway, uh, because I had to come back here to do our podcast, I missed the public reply portion. And so I decided to use our podcast tonight as sort of a public reply portion so that I could talk a little bit about the issues. And I'll share it with some of our local media, like Planet Princeton. And if they want to repost it or publish it, as a way of talking more about the issue, I'm happy to do that. So the thing about it, from a customer service perspective, I mean, we're talking about small government and that process, but we're also talking about something like advertising and how it can be more customer service oriented. Paper-based solutions are not more customer service based, in my opinion. What do you have to say on the issue, Sean?
Well, I'm listening very intently because I'm glad you at least took some of the anticipation away from me because you don't know how it ended. But the fact
I know how it's going to end. Nobody's talking about digital signage.
Right. Well, the fact I think that what's going on here in Princeton is there's a tradition that's being addressed, and that is the kiosks are, historical to some respect, and also,
In a museum.
yeah, I understand that. I'm not advocating paper kiosks in any way myself, but at the same time, I understand their broken logic for not for wanting to keep things the way they are. But at the same time, you bring up a lot of good points in the sense. But I want to know is that I think that if you put in that workflow for digital signage, then that's creating a job that didn't exist before in the township that would then require retirement, health benefits, etc.
It's Chamber of Commerce, not a government position.
Okay, so then the Chamber
As
of
a matter of
Commerce.
fact, it would be third party anyway. They were talking about this. The advertising, the management of the advertising, the design, the putting up of the posters would all be handled by a third party.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. All right, well then in that case, the Chamber of Commerce, which has no ties to the government financially, there's no tax money going to them.
The only reason that they were going to the township, by the way, is because they pay to lease those two kiosks.
Yeah, the sidewalk space probably.
And I think they're like $700 a month.
All right.
They want to take over the kiosks. I couldn't afford $700 a month more than what I'm already paying for, but it seems like a really low price for such a powerful advertising space.
I agree. In that case, then with that information, I don't see a point in them proceeding with a paper solution. I think a digital signage solution should absolutely be considered. And I don't know. I mean, my opinion of government, especially municipal government, is very low. And, I'm living in Ewing, and for the first time, I've followed politics since the third grade. And so I'm very well aware of, local government checks and balances, state and federal responsibilities. And I got to say, for the first time ever, I feel proud of the work that my township government is doing. In Toms River, things really weren't screwed up ever. Things they maintained like a good status quo, but there was really nothing that happened in Toms River that really got me excited, that the government was doing. But in Ewing, there's things almost every month when I get that Ewing Township Observer, there's almost something in every month that I read about my local government doing that I'm proud of and I'm excited about. And, So I think Ewing is the first exception in my life, but it sounds like what you're talking about in Princeton, it's just more of the same as far as I'm concerned. And, it's ineffective. I understand the need for public hearings and people weighing in, but a lot of times the people that are involved in the municipal process are just people that are out of touch. They have no clue, and they're lonely people that just want to be heard by somebody. And, that's a horrible stereotype for me to publicly state, but that's been my experience. I've watched many town council meetings in Toms River on TV. I know who goes. I know what the things there are being said. And it's just an unfortunate fact of life in the state of New Jersey.
Well, it's strange. I have been associated in some official capacity with municipalities for a great deal of my life, including Ewing. I was the chair of the web committee when they redesigned the website, and they have since moved to another solution. But it was a volunteer position. I was very proud to be involved, and it was with the ball administration. I also worked for Ben Salem Township, which is where I grew up, and I worked in Parks and Rec, actually. And I was very proud of the work that I did. It was just cutting grass and fixing playground equipment, but somebody has to do that job.
Right.
Or else people don't have a place to go and enjoy their lives on their time off. It's amazing how much people rely on that service and how important the service is, how quickly things fall apart if you don't have somebody doing that work. I do not fault Princeton Township for the things that were proposed. As a matter of fact, they did not make any decisions about what they're going to do. But I think that this will pass, and part of the problem is that I didn't raise this issue while I was in the room. I didn't have time to stay, honestly. But somebody should say it. And I hope that, I think that maybe I'll send this video as a way to sort of extend that discussion. Or as I said, I'll probably talk to local media and see if the argument is worth having. But there was one expert in the room, and that was the one who was biased towards the solution that was being presented. Nobody really had any feedback or call for concern, except for me, that I could tell. And we are the municipality. I mean, not even me. I don't even know if I would have been allowed to speak because I'm not a Princeton resident. That's another issue. It's not my town to say anything about. And I've never been to a Plainsboro township meeting yet. And it's funny, my ex-wife told me that I should run for mayor someday. And she was serious. Anyway.
Well, let me advise against that.
Oh,
not because of your skill set or the lack of qualifications. I think you probably would be more than qualified to be a successful mayor. I just think that politics is a horrible place for good people like you and I to be in.
I appreciate that. That's a nice thing you to say. So I don't fault the township. I think that they're just reacting to an idea that's being brought to them. The room was fairly empty, though. And not that the kiosks were, a high important issue, but it's kind of important. It's the reason that I ended up there tonight. Anyway, I think that the entire process could use better productive solutionism. It just seemed like there was not enough people involved, not enough people who could solve the problems, and almost like just a lack of interest. It was sad.
Well, that's just a small microcosm of what's going on throughout our country. You know what I mean? You look at voter participation in each major general election. You look at citizen understanding of major issues or what politicians stand for. I mean, Howard Stern does it all the time. He goes to different places in New York and they just say ridiculous things to people on the street. Like this year, they were like, "Do you think Sarah Palin is going to beat George W. Bush for the presidency this year?" And people were like, "Oh yeah, oh Sarah Palin's got this locked up. She'll be our president." When clearly it was Obama versus Romney. It's just people don't have a clue, and people vote, and so for the fact that nobody was
That
really
really
there.
happened?
What's that?
That actually happened?
It happens all the time, and I'll be happy to get a YouTube clip of that. He plays those clips all the time, and I know they're on YouTube. And if you hear them, it'll break your heart. And people are just they're clueless, man. And the fact that people didn't show up about the kiosks in Princeton, you know what I mean? That's not even a real big issue if you ask me.
No,
Like
it's not. I only found out about it today, and I almost didn't go. I don't. I feel kind of bad now that I didn't stand up at the mic and say something.
right.
So you have a story about movies?
Well, not necessarily a story. I just wanted to talk about the kind of state of the movie industry, movie theater industry. I'm a big movie person. I love movies. I love the theater going experience. I'm a big fan of the theater going experience.
Man, Sean, we always disagree.
And well, maybe we don't disagree. Hear me out. And for years I've been a regular moviegoer, and my girlfriend Crystal also a very serious moviegoer. In fact, I can tell you that the summer that the Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight came out, that entire summer from probably the first weekend of May all the way through the first weekend of September, we went to the movies every weekend that summer, and sometimes even two times a weekend. We just we love movies. We go to the Ritz to see a lot in Philadelphia, the Ritz theaters, to see a lot of independent productions. We participate in the Philadelphia Film Festival every year. We just love going. We love seeing films.
Do
And
you ever go to the Princeton Environmental Film Festival?
no, I don't. And for the longest time, my favorite theater.
Trenton Film Festival?
I have followed the films that are always presented at the Trenton Film Festival because I've always.
Doylestown
What's
Film
that?
Festival?
No, not Doylestown. Not Doylestown. I've wanted to go to the Trenton Film Festival, but I never see any films that really spark my interest. So that's why I haven't gone. But I do seek out the program every year in Trenton to see if there's something worth seeing. Anyway, my favorite theater for a long time was the Hamilton 24 on Sloane Avenue. I always thought it was a wonderful facility with great state-of-the-art projection, sound. Always loved the seating. And I got to say, for about a good 8 or 9 years, the clientele there was well-behaved, never really had that bad theater-going experience there. And I love going there. So I guess in the last 2 or 3 years, things have kind of changed over in the Hamilton AMC 24. And, people, it's, I don't know if it's just the people that go to that theater or if it's just people in general. We've had issues where, people are jerks about seating arrangements or people using their phones, and the screens are lighting up or people are texting or, talking is going on and, just the typical movie-going complaints that probably, from the sound of it, John, keep you out of the theater.
I will never, never say never, but I do not enjoy a movie theater going experience for exactly the reasons that you mentioned. I am too distractible. If I am in a restaurant, I can't stand to have a television on because it takes me away from the experience of enjoying my food and enjoying the company I'm with, and usually distracts the people who I'm with. I'm not there to watch TV. I'm there to share some time with a friend. I'm not going to a movie theater and paying ridiculous amounts of money and unedible food. I mean, there's no fruit in a movie theater, um, unless it's in a smoothie. Uh, to have to watch people behave badly or be affected by people who don't know how to behave around other people in respect of what's going on, what's being presented. People act differently in a theater while they're watching a play. People act different, much differently if they're going to a concert. You know, it's like two extremes, right?
Mm-hmm.
I always prefer the play experience. People are actively protective of making sure that the people on stage are being heard and being respected. I guess because there's actual people on stage. Somehow, when it turns into a big TV screen, people think it's their living room, but it's not. It's a communal experience. It's like the difference between living in a single home and living in an apartment. You have to respect the people around you a little bit differently when it's a shared experience. So, I also, I mean, they have all these special effects and, you know, the special seating and surround sound. I always think it's too loud. I don't ever think that it's in focus. It's, you know, we're getting all this extra stuff thrown onto something that I would enjoy so much more sitting in front of my television or in front of this screen here. And I'm a patient man, so I will wait for 3 months until the movie comes out, or a week until it becomes a torrent. Don't sue me, but it's one of those things that I'm not going to go to a theater. I recently, in the last year, went to a Raiders of the Lost Ark marathon. I will never do something like that again. It was horrible. It was just horrible. So much worse than a television viewing experience. And the pomp and circumstance surrounding it and the security of, you know, almost having to have your hand stamped to make sure that you're in the right place. I had to wear a lanyard so that I could, like, go in and out of the theater. It was ridiculous.
Well, you know, I totally sympathize with a lot of things that you've said, and you know, when I, like I mentioned, Crystal and I, when we go to Philadelphia to see a film, we go to the Ritz theaters. There's 3 Ritz theaters that are operated.
I do love the Ritz, actually.
And that's one of the things. You want to talk about a community that respects the common space. The community that goes to the Ritz theaters they're the people that sit in the theater till the credits are over. And complete silence, you know, complete respect of the movie-going experience. We've never had one bad experience at the Ritz ever. The only downside to the Ritz, though, is that there are no real mainstream films that are shown.
See, to me, that's not a downside.
Well, let me understand. Let me clarify. There are independent films and documentaries and such that Crystal and I want to see, and we love going to the Ritz or to the theater in Skillman, the Montgomery Cinema, to see those. But there are times, you know, like we said, we go to the Hamilton 24 to see the mainstream films that we want to see. You know, like the Batman, Avengers, maybe it's some whatever, a comedy with Will Ferrell. You know, the list goes on and on. And our only choice really is the AMC 24 or Market Fair. We've been going to the Market Fair theater, you know, because the clientele there is a little bit more respective. But, you know, the theater isn't as good. You know, the quality of the screens, the projector, the sound are not as good as what Hamilton offers. And plus you can't see any IMAX or 3D movies in Market Fair either, which is disappointing. So, you know, the Hamilton is really where we want to go, but, you know, we're stuck. And, you know, that's what's disappointing. My sister actually just told me a story last week. She went to a Lowe's cinema in Bricktown, New Jersey, and she went to see Zero Dark 30 with her boyfriend, and they were the only people in the theater. It was a weeknight, and it was a late showing, and it was getting to be the end of the movie. It was like 10:15, 11:15 or something, and all of a sudden this sketchy guy walked into the theater. He wasn't an employee. He just walked into the theater, and my sister that said that he was behaving in a very creepy manner, was making her and her boyfriend uncomfortable, and they just got up before the movie was ended, and they went out into the lobby to try and find somebody to talk to about it, and none of the staff could be found. And they ended up leaving. And, to my sister's credit, she's not this type of person. She actually called to speak to the manager the next day, and she completely voiced all of her concerns and her complaints. And, the manager and her had a lengthy conversation about it, and the manager understood, said that he would have done the same thing as my sister, and that was that. But my point is that this is just another example of how mainstream cinema, cinema complexes are failing customers. And, there's a large segment, I think, of the movie-going population that are not going because of these things that they have to deal with. And I think that there is a large segment of the movie-going population that would love to go to a theater to see the new Will Ferrell movie in an environment like you described that is like a play environment where people are there, even though it's a goofy, laugh out loud romp, people are going to respect the common space. They're going to respect other people's ability to watch the film, and people are going to, when the movie starts, they're going to shut up. They're going to respect. They're not going to use their phones. And I think there's a large segment, like I said, that's being ignored. And, you brought up the thing about food, quality of the food offerings at theaters are bad. I think that's also a thing that's keeping people away.
It's hot dogs, pretzels, candy, chocolate. I mean, there's nothing that I would choose to eat. It's like visiting New York in Central Park. It's like to get a banana is the closest thing you can get to food.
Well, there is a company I'm aware of. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they're called the Alamo Drafthouse. Have you ever heard of the Alamo Drafthouse?
Nope.
Okay, so they're a theater chain that operates out of Texas. And they have, I'm looking it up right now, they got probably about 6 or 8 theaters throughout the country right now. And like I said, most of them are in the Texas area. But they are opening up a theater in Yonkers. And they are also, I believe, opening another theater up in I think in New England somewhere as well. And the whole concept behind the Alamo Drafthouse that makes them unique is that they are hardcore about the rules of respect in the theater. They have a zero tolerance policy for talking, texting, cell phone usage. A lot of the big chains today, like your AMC or Lowe's, whoever, if you go and complain about someone speaking or using their phone, they don't do anything. They give you a free ticket to come back. They don't remove the person that's violating the policy. The Alamo Drafthouse has no qualms about it. They're upfront about this. They publicize that you'll be thrown out if you break the rules, and boom, you're gone if you break the rule. No, zero tolerance policy.
I love it.
Go ahead.
I love it. I want one.
Right. Another thing, John, about the Alamo Drafthouse that you like is that now again, I've never been to an Alamo. I long for the day that I can go to a film at an Alamo Drafthouse. I hope that day will be soon. But they also, their thing is that they have high quality food and drinks available. They say that they have, take same care with our food and drink offerings at every Alamo location. You can find a strong core of casual dining options to accompany your movie, as well as menu specials updated at least every 3 months. Cold beer and fine wines are also on the menu at every location. So again, I don't know. I would imagine that with a rotating menu like that, with casual and fine dining options at each theater, that there's got to be something that will meet your nutritional standards to some degree, much better than what a current movie-going experience would offer you. And I don't know. I think it's really amazing that this company exists, that they are um, presenting this type of movie going experience for hardcore film goers like myself. They do a lot of reportory cinema. They show old movies like on the regular, in addition to the mainstream and independent offerings. That's the other thing. They don't specialize in independent or mainstream. They do both.
Hmm.
Because they utilize the fullest potential of their screens. You know what I mean? And I think that's really amazing. And I want to just acknowledge them. I know I'm a big reader of ain'titcoolnews.com. I
Yeah.
don't know if you know that website.
Yeah, very familiar.
Harry Knowles, who is the guy who runs that site, lives in the Texas area and has been talking about the Alamo Draft House for years because, when it existed as a single theater down there. And people, they have a big film festival down there called Fantastic Fest every year. And, a lot of people in the film community have been singing the praises of the Alamo Draft House. And like I said, there's one coming in Yonkers, and there's supposedly one coming to Washington, D.C. as well. And I think it's, it's about time we get one in Philadelphia. Maybe even Princeton. You know what I mean? Like that would be amazing if we could get one here. But I don't know if that will happen. But
Well, it's funny. There's another reason why I wasn't too concerned about not being able to get up and talk about the digital signage thing, and it has to do with the idea that the Alamo Draft House might not be welcome in Princeton. It might be.
why don't you think so? I'd like to hear that.
Because in the same way that the university prefers history and tradition in its culture,
Mm-hmm.
and the city prefers history and tradition in its culture,
Right.
they dismiss innovation for the sake of innovation. Not
Okay.
that this is innovation for the sake of innovation. This is innovation with real purpose. But my impression is that within Princeton, within our small city of Princeton, that innovation, even with benefits, is often dismissed in lieu of tradition. So if you think about the Garden State Theater on the corner of Nassau and Vanderveer, not a new theater, two screens, I believe.
Yeah.
They serve coffee in the lobby. I could get food there. I don't know what the policy would be on somebody speaking too loud or using a cell phone, but I imagine that they could at least have a policy there. But the idea is that in the same way that those kiosks, those papery kiosks, will probably be there for the next 5 years. Because of the love of tradition and the history of generations that have pinned pieces of paper to that board. Despite innovation, it will probably continue. And in the same way, the Garden State Theater, despite innovation, will probably continue as it is.
You know who owns and operates the Princeton Garden Theater?
No, I don't.
The university.
Oh, really?
Yes. That's
Well,
that's university property.
That makes sense. And I by no means am saying anything negative about it. I'm recognizing a cultural element.
They actually, I really like that they have a pretty good film selection there.
Oh, beautiful.
They have a wonderful selection. A lot of the films that we go to Philadelphia or Montgomery to go see are there. I saw There Will Be Blood there before it was in theaters at Hamilton.
Fantastic movie.
Excellent film. We've seen, Crystal and I have seen a couple. We saw The Master there because that was not in Hamilton. We've seen a couple other films there too. So I really do commend them on their film offerings. But it's a pretty no frills experience when you go there. The sound, there's always usually something wrong with the sound, and it's not a new technology behind the projector, which is a little unfortunate. But like I said, the films that are selected to be presented there are usually top notch, and I'm very happy with the person who's doing their buying. They do a good job.
I think that the the fact that the sound is a little bit clunky and that the technology is not up to date all seems like it's in keeping with what we're talking about. In other words, some people are going there for the experience of a clunky, quote unquote, clunky theater experience.
An analog
Yeah,
experience.
analog, right? You can't get that everywhere anymore.
Right. So, well, I hope,
It wouldn't be
if
me, by the way.
what's that?
Wouldn't be me, by the way.
Not me either. I hope that people who are fans of going to the theater but are like myself or to the extreme are like you, John, will explore what the Alamo Drafthouse has to offer. You can go to their website, alamodrafthouse.com. Learn about them. They have a whole section of their website dedicated to their philosophies and principles. It's a great read, and that's how I became familiar with their no talking, no texting policy. And hopefully, if you're a fan of what you're reading and you'd like to see it out here, reach out to them, let them know, New Jersey needs one, because we do need one, big time.
Incidentally, just a point of, I want to resolve a potential conflict of interest. My uncle, Uncle Alamo, owns Alamo Drafthouse.
You have an Uncle Alamo?
No, we do not benefit from Sean advertising the Alamo Drafthouse.
I wish you had an Uncle Alamo.
I wish I had an Uncle Alamo
because then
too.
that would mean we'd have an Alamo Drafthouse here.
Probably. All right, well, we're coming up on 10 o'clock, and I have a makeup session with the other Sean and the other podcast on our network. So I'm going to depart. Is there anything else you want to say about our topics tonight?
No, but do you have any closing words for any shout outs or anything that you'd like to convey before we call tonight?
I just want to say that we just picked up an Arduino. I had an Arduino of my own for my personal use, but we just picked one up for playing with at work. And I'm really excited about the prospects. And I put a photo of it up on Facebook. And very soon after, somebody who's associated with Art All Night, the Trenton Artworks gig, said that they might want to work together to do something interactive for Art All Night, which is the fabulous 2-day festival, 1-day festival, 24 hours, in June every year in the Trenton area. So I just wanted to say that I'm excited about that, excited about electronics, very happy that I went to the Princeton council meeting tonight. I probably will go in the future. It was a lot of fun. I don't know how productive it was, but it was a lot of fun. And if the Alamo Drafthouse comes anywhere near us, Sean, you and me, we're going.
I like the sound of that.
All right, man. Thanks so much, and I will talk to you soon.
All right, see you next week.
Later.
Bye.